Alan Berman,
Hey,
a product of 1940s education, the conventional sort. I'm very impressed by your enthusiasm, and I'm an enthusiast too. There does seem to be one thing that you haven't dwelt on, though, and that's the sort of social interaction that went with formal education in the past.
Yeah.
And as a scientist, that was very, very important for groups of scientists to get together, discuss the problems, and come out with the answers.
Yep.
Quite apart from the beer and the marriage bureau that it also provided.
Were you talking about our summer schools now, or your 1940s? So let me just reassure everybody. I'm standing because I couldn't quite see you through there is no substitute for that personal experience. And the thing that is the magic of the OU is, as I mentioned before, that we actually create very intense social and personal experiences between our tutors and our students, and between fellow students and our student services folks at a distance. My contention about technology is it's horses for courses. So let me pick science, because that's where you came from. There's a Nobel Prize-winning physicist named Carl Wyman who started to get really worried about the retention rates of knowledge that he was finding his students were coming out of lecture rooms with when he then confronted them in the laboratory. Really got quite worried, so he went to work and studying it. And what he figured out was that instead of him delivering the lecture, if instead he taped the lecture and put it in digital formats for his students to observe before they got in the lecture room, and if he put some formative assessment in there where they could self-assess before they even got into the lecture room to find the areas that they had gaps in and have some top-up modules before they got in there, and then once he got them in the lecture room, if he gave them a clicker, which allowed them to be able to respond to questions that he could pose to the group, and you could immediately post the results up on the screen, he fundamentally changed what happened in the lecture room, because instead of it being regurgitating information and them all taking notes and trying to memorize, which of course the human brain isn't actually very good at, what he did was he used that magic time of personal interaction by using the technology to do all of that, enrich his interaction with 400 people, because it's really hard to do what you and I are doing now with 400 people through simple clicking and polling technology. And then when he measured the results, off the charts in terms of satisfaction as well as retention of the information. But I don't want anybody walking away today thinking that when I talk digital, I'm talking about an isolated experience that doesn't have the social component, because that will fail. The great thing, though, is the more the web moves from being content-centric to people-centric, the better it is at actually facilitating some of those social interactions and helping us do some of the more mundane stuff so that the magic is this. Does that help? All right, good.
Yes, last one, I think.
Right, Kate Hayes, it's a general question, really.
5'4". No, sorry.
You mentioned the statistics in relation to what is clearly a very clear generation gap. In other words, those in the older age bracket are actually far less literate than those in a younger bracket. And I wonder if you see any difficult social implications in this very clear generation gap which exists. I mean, Andrew said that he hasn't really want to be a Facebook friend, and I'm sure there are a number of people in the room who feel a limited tolerance for actually what is in fact pretty important late learning that's going on. And I think there's two things involved in that. One is it's a completely different language, and secondly, it's a completely different way of thinking about most things when you get into the digital arena. And I'm not sure that the danger might be a marginalisation of anybody really over 55 who isn't prepared to engage in a whole new vocabulary and learn a lot. And secondly, a sort of 1.5 question. You're so enthusiastic. Do you actually see any disadvantages or drawbacks to the digital revolution? For instance, I mean, would it be nice to be off the computer from time to time so that maybe you could allow yourself to miss the emails that were happening all throughout the day? That seems to be a great privilege.
Yeah. So let me deal with the latter and then we'll move to the former. So do I believe there are downsides of this new digital world that we've created? Boy, I sure do. You know, they don't call them in crackberries instead of blackberries in the United States for nothing. You know, these devices and being connected all the time has certainly changed the way that many people approach the world now. I see it, though. I'm a bit of a realist in life, and I see it as unstoppable now. So we might as well make the best of it and figure out how to turn it to great good than to try to resist it, because all of these great waves of that have approached mankind, those that have tried to resist it and stand in its way typically got run over or run around at the end of the day. So unfortunately, I think it's an unstoppable force. I think, you know, you can clearly look at some of the downsides in our society of people having free, unfettered access to so much information in so many different ways, and we're all aware of it. But, you know, I personally worry about privacy now. You know, I do. It's fundamentally changed this. Once upon a time, this could have been Chatham House. We could have had a great chat. I can't control myself anyway, but I wouldn't be worried about every word that was coming out of my mouth because it's going to go up on YouTube. There'll be people in the room twittering it as I speak. It's changed interactions like this. And, you know, there's real good for that because it gets to so many more people, but it changes it a little bit as well. So I think in everything in life, there's the good and the bad. And as my mother always used to try to tell me, moderation, Martin. So on the first question, help remind me again on the first one. I got very absorbed in this. So the first part of the question was around... Thank you. The age, yes, that we touched on before. Yeah, there's no doubt. It goes back to the answer that I gave before about the Whiffam factor or the what's in it for me. Unless there's motivation, no matter what we do, it's going to be difficult. I think the vehicles are there now for free at scale to help people of all types to get access to the knowledge that they need and the know-how that they need if the motivation exists to become more digitally literate. There are programs, maybe not enough being spent on them, and Derek and I agree with you, but there are programs like Universal Home Access and other programs that we are investing in to try to get people connected. The research that I did for tonight said, though, that there's only 9% of them who are active resistors. So there was only 9% who were saying, hell no way. So that gives me actually great optimism that if we stay courageous around creating digital literacy knowledge and mentors and transfer and applications that make sense, we can continue to make progress, but it'll never... But I worry about a world where we're pushing more and more, particularly government services online, and making these assumptions then that everybody will be able to use them and then drying up the lifelines for those that can't. So I think you raise still a very legitimate question. I like to think, though, that I'm part of an institution that understands that and actually has programs designed to help those people that want that help to get the access to it when they need it. But I know that's not enough. More needs to get done. Luckily, there's a lot of grandkids out there, so I have hope with the grandkids.